Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Huddle Up with John, talking Steelers football. We are in episode 10, and yes, we are excited because the Steelers are coming off a victory. The Steelers got it done on this past Sunday as they defeated the Bengals at home 34-12. And we're excited about that because that takes them now to a record of 6-4. They are still in first place in the AFC North Division. But listen, they can't get too comfortable because the Baltimore Ravens is right on their tail. Baltimore Ravens played the Cleveland Browns this past Sunday, and actually the Browns was up on them 16-10 going into the third quarter. And they even put Shador Sanders in there to play. And I just thought maybe Browns would knock them off. I mean, Myles Garrett was having a monster game. He sacked Lamar Jackson about 3 or 4 times. And I just thought the Browns was going to pull it off and knock off the Ravens and put them further in the hole in terms of trying to get back to win the AFC North or trying to tie the Steelers up to for the AFC North lead. But it was not to be. The Ravens ended up pulling it off and ended up winning that game. And so they are still a game or so behind the Steelers. Steelers have a big game coming up on this Sunday against the Chicago Bears. And so we'll see. But let's just recap, if we can, this past week. Again, it was a big game. It was a big revenge game for the Steelers. As y'all remember, the last time the Steelers played the Bengals beat them up pretty bad, beat up on that defense really, really bad. I mean, Joe Flacco he was coming off of just being on the team not even a whole week or so, and they played him on Thursday night in Cincinnati, man, and he put up big numbers on him. Jamar Chase lit him up. T. Higgins lit him up. Chase Brown lit that defense up. And so it was very, very important and vital for the Steelers to have a big game, and not only have a big game, but it was vital for that defense to rebound, man, and regain their manhood, because they got taken from them that game against Cincinnati on a Thursday night a couple of weeks ago. Had me out all the way down to Cincinnati, cheering them on, man, and they end up losing that game. But anyway, they definitely had a revenge game. The defense stepped up in a big way this past week and did their thing, and the Steelers was able to secure a victory. So let's get into it. Let's recap this game. I got some things I want to talk about this week because there's some big changes happening with the Steelers this week as they get ready for Chicago, and we need to talk about that as well as we need to discuss who they playing next week because, again, it's going to be a stiff test out there in the Windy City in Chicago. All right, so Steelers started off on Sunday. And they did what they have been doing pretty much a lot this year. They started off the very first drive with the score. That was exciting to see. It was exciting to see that. It was exciting to see that the Steelers come out and they had a nice drive to start off the game. And that drive was highlighted with Jaylen Warren. Man, I think he had 43 yards on 3 carries on the very first drive, including a big 35-yard run. It was a toss to the left side of formation. He hit that hole and cut back to the right side of the field, got the ball all the way down to like the Cincinnati 12-yard line. And then he got replaced by Kenneth Gainwell, and Gainwell came in and Rodgers hit Gainwell in the flat for a touchdown. He was able to outrun the linebacker. Actually beat him to the power line pretty much. But that gave the Steelers a 7-0 lead to start the game off. But, the typical thing that you would want to happen based off of, how we wanted this game to turn out. You would want the defense to come out, right, and from jump just establish themselves, right, and do what they do and shut down Flacco and let Flacco know that it ain't happening here today, right? Well, that would not to be so because on the very first drive of the Cincinnati Bengals, who got the ball after we kicked it off to them, man, they drove down the field, and they drove down the field, and Joe Flacco hit T. Higgins for a 28-yard touchdown pass, and the score was 7-6. Well, they kicked the field goal, and it was 7-7, but the Steelers got a penalty on the field goal. They was roughing the snapper, and so the Bengals decided to get the ball at the 1-yard line and go for a 2-point conversion. And Chase Brown, the running back, he was in a wildcat shotgun formation and tried to run the ball through the A gap or whatever. And man, he got nailed by Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen nailed him, but hats off to Cam Hayward, who stood up the left guard and caused Chase Brown to kind of change his direction and allow Queen to get to him. But Queen hit him hard and stopped him from scoring. So it was an unsuccessful 2-point conversion. And so the Steelers was up 7-6. So it was 7-6. Both offenses came out, did their thing on the very first drive. And then both the teams kind of cooled off for the rest of the first quarter and the second quarter. Only other score came was when Steelers had Boswell kick a 25-yard field goal with like 10 seconds to go before halftime. But I will say this, that the play that set up that field goal was a major play. And it probably set the tone for how the rest of the game was going to go, because it was 3rd and 4, and Aaron Rodgers hit Dwayne Washington. Big Mount Washington hit Dwayne Washington, and man, he started going down the sideline, ran over, stiff arm one guy, ducked under another guy, and then knocked this other DB into the next week. Man, I mean, what a run after catch by Darnell Washington, the big tight end. Man, he's really establishing himself as an all-around tight end. He ain't just a dude who can block. That dude can block, he can catch, he can run after the catch. He gets open. He's big. He is the starting tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It ain't Freiermuth. It ain't Jonnu Smith. It is Darnell Washington. He is the complete package at tight end. I mean, we'll talk about that too, because if that's the case, then the Steelers has some decisions that they need to make. Why are we paying Pat Freiermuth $10 million a year to be the third tight end on this team? That's something they're going to have to think about in the offseason, whether or not they want to continue to do that. But at any rate, right now, it's the Mount Washington show. And Bro put on a show today. He had a really good game. That 31-yard reception is what set up the field goal for the Steelers to go up 10-6 at halftime. Fortunately, we come out of halftime and we realize that Mason Rudolph is going in at quarterback. And what was discovered is that before halftime, sometime before halftime, still don't know what play it was, but Aaron Rodgers fell and he broke a bone in his left wrist, not his strong wrist, but his left wrist. And so he was out, and Mason Rudolph came in to be the quarterback for the Steelers going forward. Well, we come back after halftime, the Bengals rather. They marched down the field, got a field goal, cut the score from 10-6 to 10-9. Then Rudolph came in, and I mean, he did what he did. Now let me just say this real quick. Put a pin right here, real quick, and just tell you, anybody who knows me and has followed me on social media or talked to me in person about the Steelers know that I am a big Mason Rudolph fan. I have rocked with this dude since college, Oklahoma State. When he played there, I remember he played for Oklahoma State and came to Pittsburgh and lit Pitt up in Acrisure Stadium, at Heinz Field at that time. Him and James Washington, who was his wide receiver then, who we end up drafting as well in that same draft together. Yeah, Mason Rudolph, to me, should have been the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. He was everything that you would want in a quarterback to take the place of Ben Roethlisberger. He was similar to Ben Roethlisberger in giftedness, in terms of being big, 6'5", in terms of having a big arm. That boy can throw the ball deep like anybody. Maybe better than a lot of people, man, give him credit for. And he's a good thrower. He's a good dude. I really thought that they should have given him the chance to be the quarterback after Ben Roethlisberger retired, but it was not to be. But I'm glad they signed him back this year to be their backup quarterback, and he came in the game and he showed what he does. He was 12 for 16, 100 or so yards and a touchdown, man. He managed the game well. And on the very first drive, the Steelers had a 3rd and 11. It was 3rd and long, 3rd and 11. And what he do? He do what he does best, man. He hit Roman Wilson on an out route, 17-yard catch. Then after that, he hit Dwayne Washington. Dwayne Washington bullies his way down the field, gets 17 yards, and converts a 3rd and 17. And then Boswell kicks a field goal that puts the Steelers up 13-9 with about 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Now, then it's 13-9. The defense begins to show up, and defense makes the play of the game, in my opinion. Play of the game was made by brand new safety Kyle Duggar. Now, let me just share this with you. One of the things that I had been noticing about the defense was in the very first half, the defense was playing on 3rd down a lot of cover 2. And if anybody who knows about cover 2, if you don't know about cover 2, basically what it is that you got 2 high safeties and you have 2 middle linebackers, and the middle linebackers, they pretty much run down the hashes of the field, go back, running down the field to keep any thing from going down the seams. The hashes are, the hash marks that go down the field. The two linebackers run down there to keep anything from going down the seam or keep anything from going over their head. But what that does sometimes is it leaves you susceptible to underneath stuff. Because if you got four rushmen and you got two high safeties, two linebackers running back, then it leaves things underneath. And what the Bengals were doing in the first quarter was to convert third downs on that touchdown drive. They were taking what was given to them underneath, and they was converting third downs, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, because the linebackers were dropping in that cover too. Well, as it stands, we've been critical of Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin about their defenses, about their inability to adjust. But you can't say that about them this day, because they adjusted, and I like the way they adjusted. So they kept running cover two, but here's what they did: they would run cover two, and they would bring a safety, be it Jalen Ramsey or Kyle Duggar, as like a hammer or a robber is what they call them. And a robber is basically, they know what a robber is, somebody who robs things, but he's a lurker. And so what he does is he was on either one of those safeties was on assignment that if we play cover two and we drop any guy who's in the middle that the Bengals is trying to hit, like they were in the first drive for first down, it was the safety's job to come down and nail that joker before he gets a first down or, break up the pass or whatever. And that was working. And it worked to perfection on this one time, because on third and 9 in the third quarter, it was 3rd and 9. The Steelers bring pressure. Nick Herbig and TJ Watt both collapsed the pocket. That two, Flacco rattled him, and he didn't even realize that Duggar had came down, like I told you, like as that robber, and stood right in the middle of the field, where he stood right in the middle of the field where Joe Flacco was looking to throw the ball on that third down pass, and he threw it right to Duggar at the 26-yard line. And Duggar takes off, running down the field for a pick. And Herbig, man, Herbig had pressure on the quarterback. He flies down the field and gives Duggar one last block to spring him, and he just slid under the hand of Jamar Chase and walked into the end zone for a pick six. So Steelers got a pick six, 73-yard interception return by new safety Kyle Duggar. It was 20-9. And again, kudos again to Tomlin and Austin for making an in-game adjustment. That was an in-game adjustment. They played cover two. They was getting beat on it early, where they was giving up underneath stuff to the Bengals. And this time they decided that we're going to have a robber, or we're going to have a safety come down to be a robber and take away the middle of that field, either by tackling them before they get to the first down marker or getting themselves in position to make an interception like Duggar did. So the score is 20-9 after that touchdown by Duggar. The Bengals, unfortunately, was able to get another field goal, 48-yard field goal by McPherson, and they shouldn't have got that, because it was really a horrible point in the game where Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase got into it. We know now what happened was Jamar Chase had spit on Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey just went crazy and snatched that man's helmet up and kind of went after him, for spitting on him, man. Nothing more disgusting than for somebody to spit on you. That kind of stuff should have no place in the game, but that's what he did. And unfortunately, the refs didn't see the spit. They saw Ramsey trying to snatch his helmet off, and it was 2 times that they scuffled on that drive, and Ramsey got ejected. But at the same time, the Steelers actually stopped the Bengals on 4th and 1. That Ramsey personal foul gave them 15 yards and let their drive stay alive. They were looked like they were trying to score to get a touchdown, but Herbig came up big and sacked Flacco and halted the drive, and the Bengals had to kick a 48-yard field goal. That made the score 20-12 with about 9.5 minutes to play. And then basically the Steelers just clinched it on the next two drives, clinched it. The next drive that they got, the Steelers got, they were driving down the field. Rudolph was orchestrating the drive, and really got a lot of help from Kenneth Gainwell. We learned that Jalen Warren had rolled his ankle, so he was hurt, and the Steelers was just kind of leery about putting him back in the game because of his injury. Didn't want to further hurt him, so they let Gainwell play, and he played, man. He did well on that next drive. He had 3 big plays. He had a 20-yard catch on 3rd and 1, Gainwell did, that got him a first down. And then he had a beautiful screen pass that he caught. He caught it with one hand, and he was able to run it down to the 5 yard line. He almost scored, but he got tripped up and he fell at the 5 yard line. Rudolph rewarded him because the very next play he slipped out into the flat all by himself, and Rudolph hit him for a 5 yard touchdown pass, and that put the Steelers up 27-12, and there was just about 3 minutes to go. The game was almost over then, but there was more to be done because on the very next drive, the Steelers kicked it off to the Bengals. And on the very next drive, the first play on that drive, Echo hits tight end Noah Fant out in the right flat, and Brandon Echoes hits him and causes him to fumble. James Pierre, corner, he scooped it up and ran it 33 yards for another defensive touchdown. They had 2 defensive touchdowns on Sunday, and again, that sealed it. It was 34-12, game over. So again, a whole bunch of people that need to be congratulated and get high marks for this game, and we'll go over that in a minute. Yeah, the Steelers defense, after that first drive, they played really well, and I'm just, again, I'm a big believer that the defense plays well when the coaching staff puts them in position to win. And same thing with the offense. The offense, little bit left out there to be desired because they played against the worst defense in the league against the Bengals. You take away those 2 touchdowns by the Bengals, and they only scored 20 points. They need to score more than some 20 points against the Bengals. And so, needless to say, we're not going to complain. They got the job done. 34-12 was the final score in that game. Again, we want to update you on what Mike Tomlin said about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, again, has a chipped bone in his left wrist. Mike Tomlin said in his press conference yesterday that at the early portions of the week that Aaron Rodgers is probably not going to practice. They're trying to, figure out if they can get him some sort of brace or something to keep it stable so that, it doesn't hurt him, it doesn't affect him. And he said if they can do that and he can protect himself and, not hurt himself from falling on it or something to that effect, then it's possible that he could play on Sunday against the Bears. He said, but they won't know that probably till Friday. And he also said, Tomlin said that they were going to work with Mason Rudolph, getting him ready, and possibly may even give some snaps to rookie quarterback from Ohio State that we drafted in the 6th round, Will Howard, get him some snaps as well, because if Rodgers can't play, then he becomes the top backup to Rudolph, and he got to be ready because if Rudolph get hurt, he got to go in the game. And so that's big news on Aaron, but I'm not worried about that because, again, like I told y'all earlier, I'm a fan of Mason Rudolph. I think Mason Rudolph could get the job done if he needs to for the next couple of games. I say give Aaron Rodgers a break. Let him recoup. Let him regather himself because he hasn't been playing pretty well. He wasn't playing pretty well in this game either before he got hurt, and he definitely didn't play well against the Chargers. And so, maybe he just needs to sit for a minute, gather himself, take a look at the game from the outside in, and and just give himself a chance to rest and come back in the game or two. And play, maybe come back next week when they play the Buffalo Bills. They got three very important games coming up. They play the Bears on Sunday in Chicago. They come back home to play the Buffalo Bills, which is going to be a big game, going to be a big AFC game. And then they go to Baltimore to play Baltimore. It's very conceivable that by the time they play Baltimore, that game could be deciding first place or have even greater ramifications. So, these are some important games. I will say these 3 games are similar to the 5 games that they played last year. Last year, if y'all remember, they had a 5-game stretch where they played playoff teams. They played the Ravens. They played the Bengals, I believe, the Ravens. They played the Philadelphia Eagles. They played the Kansas City Chiefs. They played all those games last year, and it was a really a test to see whether or not that team last year was as good as we thought they were, because they were 8-2 when they got there, but when it was all said and done, they was 8-7. They lost all 5 of those games, and it just really showed that they was not up to par. So I feel like this 3-game stretch is similar to that. These are 3 good teams. Chicago Bears are really good, especially on offense. I'll talk about them in a minute, but they're really good. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. The Buffalo Bills, we already know that they're good. They're coming here, and we know that the Ravens always give us fits. And so these 3 games is going to tell us where the Steelers are in terms of being playoff ready, right? All right, so that's the highlight of the game, recap of the game, rather. I just want to share some highlights of the game. I want on offense. I thought on offense, again, Kenneth Gainwell came in and, he scored 2 touchdowns. Hats off to him for filling in for Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren was running the ball pretty well before he got hurt, before they rolled his ankle. He had 62 yards on 10 carries. He had 6.2 a pop, man. Jaylen Warren is that dude, man. I just wish they would play him more. Again, I see the reason why they like Gainwell, but they really need to stop pulling Jaylen Warren off of the field on third down, especially when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Man, let Jaylen Warren run the ball. I just feel like they're not using him like they should when he is, to me, their most consistent, best and consistent offensive player on the team. Anyway, running game was okay with Warren in the first half. Gainwell, again, big plays in the passing game where he was able to score, 2 touchdowns. He had 7 catches for 81 yards. That was big. That was major. DK Metcalf, he had a pretty quiet game. He had 5 catches, 49 yards. He would have had more, but he got called on Mason Rudolph hit him on a nice long back shoulder pass down the field. Mason is good for that, man. That boy can throw the ball, but DK got called for offensive pass interference, which I thought was foolishness. There was no way that was pass interference. Referee, these guys is old, man. They blind. They need to get some glasses or something. But anyway, if not for that, he would have had a better statistical game than that. And then, the big hats off to Dwayne Washington, who had a monster game, 4 catches, 67 yards. That long 31-yard catch where he stiff armed that dude into the ground and then ran over another guy onto the sideline. Man, that was a tone setter right there. So Dwayne Washington had a great game on Sunday, and then of course his blocking is just monstrous. There was one play I was watching the All 22. The All 22 shows you the game from above the stadium, and Dwayne Washington, man, on that screen pass, man, he took out 2 dudes in one block. He's just a monster. He's just a monster, man. We are blessed to have Mount Washington for sure, for sure. But I will say this about the offense: they need some more playmakers. I was one that was pulling for Calvin Austin III, to be that wide receiver 2, or Roman Wilson to be that wide receiver 2. But it's obvious that, man, they're not pulling it like they need to, because what I did this week was I watched them specifically because I wanted to see. People kept saying that the Steelers are DK Metcalf is being double teamed. They're taking him out the game. So I wanted to see, what are these other guys doing? If they double teaming Metcalf, what are these other guys doing to get themselves open? What I noticed is a couple things. One, on third down, the Steelers went to 12 personnel, which means they played 1 running back, 2 tight ends. So the formation is 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, quarterback, the offensive lineman. And the Steelers really depended on them tight ends to get open, be it, Jonnu and Freiermuth, or Jonnu and Hayward, or Freiermuth and Hayward, whatever combination they use. Then they use it a lot on third down, and they use it a lot near the end zone. And these guys wasn't getting open, man, especially when they got down the end zone, near the end zone, and had to kick these field goals. They were not open. The wide receivers were not open. Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson got open on that one pass that he caught. Other than that, he was not open. Calvin Austin was not open. The tight ends, Freiermuth, they had a design play to him, like a design screen to him where he got, he caught it for like 19 yards. But that was the only catch he had because he wasn't open. Adam Smith, he was getting open a little bit, but there were some bad passes by Aaron Rodgers that missed him. I think like 2 times he threw the ball to Jonnu. Oh no, Aaron threw him once and Mason threw him once. They both were bad passes. So I feel bad a little bit for Jonnu. Jonnu may be able to help in that area, but they got to target him a little bit more. So anyway, I'm worried about that. Let me just say that I'm worried about going forward whether this offense can be effective on third down and near the end zone without the receivers that they need to get open. Maybe they need to look at Marquez Vandeling, or whatever his name is, bring him off the practice squad and see if he can add something to this wide receiver core, because they need some help other than Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. So that's it with the offense. On the defense, again, kudos to the defense. Like I said, they really redeemed themselves against the Bengals on Sunday. They had 2 touchdowns, the interception and fumble return for touchdown. You've seen some good play from. I want to give some highlights to. One would be to James Pierre, the corner who played for Darius Slay. Slade was out with a concussion, and James Pierre, man, he had a solid game. He was playing tight coverage. That I mean, the Steelers secondary played a heck of a game after that first drive. They played a heck of a game, man. I mean, they held Jamar Chase, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, to 3 catches in 30 yards. That's all he had. His longest was a 16-yard catch. Now, T. Higgins did get off because he had that 28-yard touchdown pass, which was crazy. They had a linebacker lined up on it. They just got caught in a bad mix there when that was that first touchdown. But other than that, you take away that touchdown from him, and he had a pedestrian game. Steelers secondary played big, and it was led by James Pierre. James Pierre did really, really well in coverage. It was a long pass that Flacco threw to Jamar Chase, and I mean that ball was on the money. But man, Pierre had solid coverage. Didn't create a pass interference. Just went up and knocked the ball down, and it was an incomplete pass. So yeah, the secondary, they deserve kudos. James Pierre, Joey Porter Jr., no penalties, thank the Lord. No handsy penalties on Joey Porter Jr. That was solid. Him, Brandon Echols played nice in the slot on their slot wide receiver. The play of the linebackers, a little bit to be desired in the front line, man. That the Bengals were still able to get a running game a little bit. Chase Brown was able to get off a couple of times on some runs that shouldn't be. They need to cement that run defense so that it's not leaking. I mean, it's getting better. Don't get me wrong. It's getting better. It's definitely getting better. But there's sometimes it's leaking a little bit, and they're getting field flipping plays in the run game. And the Steelers need to stop that. Need to stop that. And if that means playing that big nickel defense or that 4-3 defense where you got 4 down linemen and you got 3 linebackers, Peyton Wilson, Malik Harrison, and Patrick Queen, Tom, and they need to just go ahead and commit to that, and go ahead and run that. So, all right. So, again, the defense, man, their highlight, the secondary was a highlight. James Pierre was a highlight. As I mentioned, I give a shout out to Terrell Austin for making those adjustments. I hate the fact that they was playing that cover 2, but then, as I went back and watched the tape, I see how they made the adjustment for the cover 2. They still played it, kept anything from going over their head, but had that robber come down. And on several occasions, that's exactly what the Bengals was doing. They was throwing it underneath the cover 2 linebackers, and that safety was coming down, and he was hitting them, stopping them short from getting a first down, or in Duggar's case, he got that interception for a touchdown. And so, yeah, so big game for the Steelers, man, to win this game and to now go 6-4 and stay on top of the AFC North with an AFC North win. That's always major because, of course, at the end of the day, if it ever came down to a tie or something like that between them and Baltimore, they're going to look at what is the AFC North record, right, and see who has the better record to break the tiebreaker. So big AFC North game win. All right. So coming up on Sunday, they got another big game. They played the Chicago Bears. And Chicago Bears, again, they've been on fire. They've won 7 of their 8 last games. Now, their defense is a little bit to be desired because the defense kind of reminds you of the Bengals. The team kind of reminds you of the Bengals. They're just a little bit more consistent and better. But they got a potent offense, an explosive offense, and they got a leaky defense. So it's going to be a big game. On offense, man, Caleb Williams is that dude. He's that dude that he was in USC. He's a playmaker with his feet. He's fast. He can run. He can throw on the run. He kind of reminds you a little bit of Patrick Mahomes when he throws the ball on the run, making all different kind of throws from different angles and things of that nature. He got some legit playmakers. Roma Dunze, who they drafted with him the same year. He got DeAndre Swift as a running back, who is a nice running back. Still got DJ Moore at wide receiver. They got Loveland, who's a tight end, and Cole Kmet. He got weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they got a legit offensive line. That's one of the things that their new head coach, Ben Johnson, did when he first got there. He built that offensive line and solidified the offensive line, rather. They had already drafted Paris Wright, I think that was his name, or Darnell Wright, not Paris Wright, Darnell Wright. They drafted him from Tennessee to play right tackle. They just got Joe Thuney from the Chiefs on the offseason. They traded Joe Thuney to the Bears so he could play left guard for the Bears. So I can't remember the other offensive line pieces, but they got decent offensive line, decent running game. Swift, I know, is pretty decent as running back because he's my fantasy running back. So he's been getting pretty good yards when he's not been hurt. Look forward to that offense. It's going to be a stiff challenge for the defense. They're going to have to stop that offense and stop Caleb Johnson from getting off on Sunday. But also they gotta be able to, score against this defense. You can't go up against two bad defenses like Cincinnati and Chicago and only come away with 20 points. Like, you're gonna have to score. So the Steelers need to take advantage of this not so good defense and be better on offense. That's why I would say they should play Mason Rudolph. I don't care that Aaron Rodgers wants to play against the Chicago Bears because he's owned them, whatever. Man, I mean, you ain't gonna own them when you hurt and you playing hurt and you playing scared. And that's one of the things I've been noticing about Aaron Rodgers. He's panicking in that behind the line. He's been panicking. He's running out of the pocket, and he's not even under pressure, throwing the ball into the ground. I would play Mason Rudolph and let Mason Rudolph, orchestrate this offense on this coming Sunday against this bad defense, and let Aaron Rodgers get ready to come back for Baltimore for Buffalo and Baltimore the next 2 weeks. But I'm not the coach. Mike Tomlin's the coach. That's a decision that he has to make. But again, they played the Chicago Bears defense. The Chicago Bears, again, the defense just hasn't been good. The Bengals put up numbers on them like a week or so ago, and that was Joe Flacco's team. So if the Steelers can run the ball and get some big plays or whatever and go up on Chicago and make Caleb Williams one-dimensional, then they got a great chance of going into Chicago, the winning city, and winning this game. But it's going to be a good game. The Bears are 7-3, or 8-2, 1-2, 7-3, 8-2, and the Steelers are 6-4. It's a 1:00 game on Fox. Make sure y'all watch it. It's going to be a good game. So, all right, just a couple things I want to share with y'all before I let y'all go. And so, again, Aaron Rodgers, we won't know anything about him until Friday. They'll make a decision on whether he's going to play or not by Friday. And Mike Tomlin said Steelers have also they have been re-signed one of the quarterbacks, Jack Plummer Lee, signed him back to be a third quarterback. He's on the practice squad, so I'm assuming if Rodgers can't go, then what they'll do is they'll bring him up on Saturday as the third emergency quarterback so that Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, first two, and then he'll be the third quarterback in case they need him on Sunday. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, it's just some things to look out for this week. They still got, again, Marcus Valdez, Scandalous, whatever his name is. He's on their practice squad. We'll see if they call him up to contribute to the Steelers, to the team. I think they need to. I think they need to do something at wide receiver to get somebody in there to get open, again, to take that pressure off of DK. And again, all my friends who's watching this, I'm sorry. Y'all heard me defending Calvin Austin III. And saying that they don't need to trade for no wide receiver, things like that. I take it back, man. I take it back. I watched it. I seen it. The offense did not look well and did not do well on Sunday on third down or closer to the end zone because those guys just wasn't getting open. I mean, they just was not getting open. So I know it's hard to want to put your eggs in the basket of a Marquez, Scandalous, Valdez, or whatever his name is. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the dude's name. I don't even know it. But anyway, hard to put your eggs in his basket when he's just on the practice squad and he got cut from the other teams he was on. But I mean, hey man, he may be better than what they got with Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III. And if they need a spark, then hey, bring him up and let's see what he can do. Also, don't forget they got Asante Samuel Jr. on their practice squad. They signed him last week, the corner. However, I was very disappointed to hear Mike Tomlin say yesterday, he was asked in his press conference, they said, hey, being as though James Pierre played a really solid game last week and the last week before that, and Darius Slay is now eligible to play because he's no longer in concussion protocol. Jesus. Concussion protocol. And they asked Mike Tomlin, do you foresee Slay coming back and starting, or will Pierre remain the starter? And Tomlin said, no, when Slay's back, he's playing. Really, bro? Like, Slay has been horrible all year. I mean, I shouldn't say that. He has not been very good all year. Why would you not ride a hot hand like James Pierre, who helped you shut down arguably the best wide receiver in the league this past week? And before that, he had a good game, the shutdown when Slay went out. Why would you not play him? And why would you? I just don't get it, man. That's the things about Tomlin that bother me. He's stubborn. He's bullheaded. And, he's scared to admit he's wrong. He's scared to make changes because making changes, it causes you to acknowledge that you're wrong, right? That what you were doing was not working. And he's scared to do that because of his pride, man. Those are things that bother me about him. Great leader, man. great orator. He can speak words and he can come up with phrases. He may even know football pretty well. They say, but his stubbornness and his bullheadedness is what sometimes hurts this team, and how he manages the team and the personnel of the team that sometimes affects them. And we're gonna see. We're gonna see, right? We're gonna see what happens with Slay on Sunday. If Slay has a bad game, we can all look back and say, "See, we told you that we knew that you should never play the dude, but because you're stubborn, because you're bullheaded, you just had to play him, and look what happened." So I'm hoping that that don't happen, but maybe sometimes that those kind of things need to happen so he can be humble, man. But at any rate, they got Asante Samuel Jr. on the practice squad. Hopefully they don't keep him on there too long and then he start looking for somewhere else to go so he can play. Because, I mean, arguably he's better than anybody they got at corner, including Joey Porter Jr., this young boy, man. So hopefully he can get up to speed this week and maybe get on the field and start getting some plays, getting some action or whatever. We'll see. We'll see how they manage this. We'll see how they handle this. I'm just hoping and praying, man, that Tomlin don't blow this up with how he manages this thing, just being stubborn. I'm hoping he don't stay with Slay and stay with Slay so long that you end up losing Samuel to somebody else who, because he wants to go somewhere else and play because you won't let him play, and you won't let him play because you got somebody who can't play in front of him who's 34 years old. I just hope that don't happen. I really do. I hope it don't happen. You got a 26-year-old young cornerback. When before he got hurt, he was solid. He was a solid cover dude, and you was able to stumble on him, man. He wanted to play for you. He wanted to play for this team. He wanted to play with Jalen Ramsey because they both played at Florida State. So again, I'm just hoping that they don't mess this up. So all right, so so Sunday again. I'm looking forward to the game against the Bears. I'll be back here next week with episode 11 as we huddle up and talk Steelers football. Listen, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Don't forget, please go to YouTube and check it out. I need you to share this. I need you to like it. I need you to comment on it. If you got anything you want to discuss about the Steelers, we can do that. Again, I know I told y'all previously that we was going to have special guests on the show, but we can't because we can't go live because we don't have enough followers. And it's cool. We're gonna get there sooner or later. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna show up every week. I hope you show up every week and huddle up with me as we talk Steelers football. And eventually one day we'll be able to talk live and share some things about what's going on with the Steelers live in person, and have some special guests who can give us some tips or some information about the X's and O's of football. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great night, and I will see y'all next week. Let's go Steelers. Let's get that dub in the Windy City. Peace.